This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at the BatmanUniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
You don't like the Drake.
I hate the Drake.
I love the Drake.
BatmanUniverse.net, your home for all things Batman and Robin, who is celebrating 80 years this year. We're also part of Batman on Film's Batman Podcast Network. So between the BatmanUniverse.net, our primary host, and BatmanPodcastNetwork.com, you can find the show. Speaking of finding the show and other social media things, you can get a hold of us on Twitter at ELTD Podcast. We are on Facebook at Facebook.com/EveryoneLovesTheDrake. We have an Instagram page, and you can email into the show. We will read those on air at RobinELTDPodcast@Yahoo.com. And we also have a new Blogspot page that I'm titling the ELTD Network. So you can find us at everyonelovesthedrake.blogspot.com, because Blogspot will also host Everyone Loves Young Justice. So this gives me and Terence, Ryan, and Jay, respectively, the opportunity to put up other like essays or op-ed pieces, or sometimes art or different things that we're talking about that, you know, since it's an audio medium, you can't see. This will give you the opportunity to do that, just so we can write some more long form pieces or different things we might be saying or items we're referencing that we don't necessarily get the opportunity to do that on the feed for the podcast over at the BatmanUniverse.net. So I thought this will work in tandem with it. So there'll be links to the actual episodes for the BatmanUniverse.net, but then some extra content that you can read as well. So it'll be supporting the BatmanUniverse.net, but it'll also give you a little bit extra into the episodes and some things that we can post daily or weekly if we so choose to do so. So I'm trying to get them to go up the day of release, but because of, you know, the four of us doing the two respective shows together, one of us may have an idea for a piece to say, hey, I'd like to write a little op-ed piece. So this gives a chance for the four of us to do that if we choose to do so, though it'll help hopefully enrich your podcasting listening experience. So check out everyonelovesthedrake.blogspot.com for our official website, if you will. So we are out of contagion. We have been released in the world. We have got Terence and Ryan here, and I'm not just talking about the actual story we just covered. I'm also talking about getting a chance to go out and start doing things again, and, you know, maybe still wearing your masks out there. But before we get into our topic today, where it's kind of back to the norm as far as Tim Drake is concerned, is that I got a chance to actually go to a comic book store and not do curbside or do anything like that, is actually walk in the front doors of a comic book shop, but having to wear a mask. And as texting Terence and Ryan that felt like, Ryan says, you're probably more like Bane going in. So it was a really surreal experience to be like in a comic. It was one of those things like I got to wear a mask for work, and that's just part of the norm. But other than going and picking up groceries, this is the first thing that's you could categorized as frivolous. Like, I'm going to go to a comic book shop to help support the shops that are just now starting to reopen this week. I think most shops around my area opened up on Tuesday. So, being Saturday is the time we recorded, I wanted to go and support a local shop. And, it was really interesting kind of seeing everybody in masks and getting, for those people that probably aren't used to probably having to wear masks. So it was really an interesting experience just to be in a comic book shop wearing a mask. But I mentioned Terence and Ryan's name. I'm getting things all out of order. Both Terence and Ryan are here now. Terence, I did know that you said you had went to a shop too today. What was your experience like just being in a shop, doing something other than maybe picking up groceries for the first time in a while?
Yeah, hey guys. It was kind of neat to be back in the old comic book store. The local, I say local, it's still like a half hour away from me, but the closest comic book store to me.
Ultimate Comics, they reopened with some restrictions. You got to wash your hands as soon as you go in. And they have a sink?
I guess, that makes sense because you're thumbing through books and touching everything on the shelf, so they ask you to do that. And they were doing a sale, buy two, get one free. So my wife was the one who was really like, we got to go. We got to support the local business. You got to support your craft. So she really pushed me to go. Plus, there's a couple stores nearby. I think she wanted to go to that too. There's a Tuesday morning and then those kind of things. She wanted to get some stuff for the outside. So we went, and my Robin collection ends at issue 41. And then I have some sporadic issues here and there that I've picked up. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just get issue 42, 43, and 44. There's buy two, get one free. Because I had been in there, I don't know, like 3 years ago, and they had the entire run of Robin. They had every single book. But I guess someone bought some, because when I got there, they didn't have issues 42.
I wonder who would have bought some of those issues.
Yeah.
There was a guy said he was on a Robin podcast and needed them.
Yeah.
Maybe like somebody that lives in the same city as you, but somehow has never met you in person, but also shops in the same stores and buys the same books.
It was like that time where eBay all of a sudden got 3 Shotgun Smith origin story orders.
Detention Comics is a hot book right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So my wife was like thumbing through, and she's like, well, can I help you? Can I try to find Robin 42? And she's like, oh, this is issue number 1. I'm like, no, that's an annual. She was trying, but she pulled out the she pulled out the Robin 80-page giant from September 2000, and she's like, I really like this one. It's got these animals on the cover and the elephant and stuff. You should get this one. So I got the Robin 80-page giant, which is actually the wedding issue for Jack Drake, Tim's dad, and the hot trainer Dana, and Miss Mac is in it too. So like, I guess they all survive the horrible calamities that befall Gotham. Spoilers on the cover, which is pretty cool. And then I picked up issues 47 and 48, just because those were like the closest to 42. And Eduardo Barreto is doing the art, so his art's pretty cool. And 48 is a Tom Grummett cover, which is kind of weird. I think it was recycled art somewhere. Someone missed a deadline or something. That was kind of fun to pick up some Robin issues. Next time I go, I'll leave like a Post-it note for Ryan saying, sorry, I already bought issue 47. Yeah.
I went hoping to be able to get the Legacy trade paperback, having the Contagion one that was, really nice and handy. And I couldn't find Legacy. So I saw the DC Comics Essential action figures, and I saw the blue and gray Batman, the Nightfall Batman, and I was hoping to find Catwoman. Couldn't find her, but I did pick up that. We didn't have to wash. They did have hand sanitizer there on the counter, but it said the front door beyond this point. And the shop I went to is Comic Town in Columbus, Ohio. If anybody from the Columbus area, go support them. But they did have a sign on the front door that says masks must be worn beyond this point. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. 99.9% of the people in there were wearing masks, but there was just this one dude walking around without a mask and has this look of like, well, why are you guys wearing a mask? It's like, well, it's a big sign at the front of the door. So, but hey, Ryan, how are you doing today, sir? And I bet it's a balmy, crisp 64 degrees where you're at today.
If anybody's a fan of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and you are familiar with the episode where Danny DeVito gets shoved in a couch, and he has to and he's like naked inside of a couch, and he has to like rip himself out of it because he's too hot, and he gets out, he's like, too hot. That's kind of like the situation I'm in right now. I'm not in a couch. I'm not naked in a couch, but boy, my AC's busted, and it broke on a Friday, and it won't be fixed until Monday. And of course, there's a heat wave this weekend, and it's like pushing 90 here in good old Raleigh. So my house is like 85 plus degrees right now. So I'm not having a very good time.
And I will shut my face with the nice crisp 71 degrees that we had today. But we've had a lot of rain over the last 2.5 weeks. And like the sun comes out, but not enough. So today was one of those days where there were a lot of people out and about today. So it was kind of cool just to be out and be like, oh, sun, got some barbecue and some comics, or actually some action figures. And it was a good day. So like we were saying, we're back from doing our every other episode. So I've got a couple more 88th anniversaries lined up, and hopefully I can incorporate Terence and Ryan into a couple of those coming in down the line, but more on that later. We are going to be looking at, for this show, Robin 29 and Robin 30. And it's just funny, like thinking about like, oh, when we get to Legacy, we've only got like 3 or 4 issues that we're going to talk about over the next couple shows before we're right into Legacy, which I know this is a story that is one that Ryan has been chomping at the bit to discuss, and is one that I'll just save that for Legacy. But what we're going to do right here, we're going to take a quick promo break, and when we come back on the other side, we're going to be taking a look at Robin in 29 and 30. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
The time is out of joint.
The time is out of joint.
The time is out of joint.
The year is 1994, or 1944, or maybe 2994. Time is under threat, and history's falling apart. Who will survive this crisis, and how will history be changed for those that do? 0 Hour Strikes takes you back to that DC Comics crossover and covers the entire story, issue by issue, tie-in by tie-in, as the DC Universe goes down to zero. Join Bass and Siskoid at fireandwaterpodcast.com or on iTunes. 0 Hour Strikes, a proud member of the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Remember, Legion?
And now the cover credits for Robin 29 and 30 come to us by the way of Mike'sAmazingWorld.com. Robin 29 has a cover date of May 1996 with an on-sale date of March 27, 1996 with a cover price of $1.95. The editor is now the late Denny O'Neil. Writer is Chuck Dixon. The penciler is Frank Fosco, which is a first for this series. And because of that, we're going to do an artist spotlight. This is something that I want to try and do for new artists that we get on the book and new writers, but of course Chuck Dixon is going to be here for quite a while, so it'll basically feature around the new artists that we get throughout the title. So for Frank Fosco, as a comic book artist, obviously, he began his career in 1983 working for Megaton Comics on their title Megaton. His first work with DC Comics was Zero Hour trade paperback in 1994. Then he worked on titles like Legionnaires and then Robin and many others. He is best known in the comic book industry for his work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Fosco would only draw 2 issues for the Robin book, being the 2 issues we're discussing today, 29 and 30, and would also be his last work at DC Comics. So we'll continue on with the rest of the creators in the book. Inker is Stan Woosh, the letter is Timothy Harkins, colorist is Adrian Roy, and the cover credits go to Mike Rowingo and Terry Austin. And now, Robin 29, Hit and Myths. When we last left off with Robin, in Robin 28, Tim Drake is greeted at the door by someone. That someone is Ariana with her brand new hairdo. It's platinum blonde. You know, just like Stephanie. Tim's inner monologue says, I hate it. Out loud he says, I love it. Hopefully that was convincing. She knew that Tim would. Jack Drake encourages his son to ask Ari to stay over for dinner. They're having shepherd's pie. That is something Tim is not a fan of either. Elsewhere in Gotham City, Maxi Zeus and his cohorts of the Greek gods are looking to make their next score high atop a cloud. Okay, it's not really a cloud, it's actually a billboard that tells you to sleep on a cloud with Cloud Soft. It's probably for a mattress. Maxi tells his Greek chorus that they think they can stop and escape my wrath. No, they are wrong. Their walls will not save them from the gods' anger. Fools! As he points to the Troy Armored Freight Company. Maxi has decreed his next plan of attack. He knows not the day nor the hour of their future endeavor, and is covered in mystery for now, and will please somebody grab that umbrella and cover me. My cardboard lightning is becoming soggy in the rain. Later that night, because of the rain, Tim drives Ari to her house. Tim finally asks why she did it. She replies, my hair? To which Tim replies back, yes. She tells Tim that she just wanted him to notice her. And Tim says he does, but before he can get any other words out, she plants one on him, and really plants one on him. The surprised look on Tim's face is enough for Ari, and before he can muster up any other words, Ari runs out in the rain. Cue Val Kilmer's Batman. Women. In the Soak City streets of Gotham City, Maxi Zeus pays a visit to Oswald Cobblepot, a.k.a. the Penguin, asking his greatness for a blessing on his plan and the blessings of this enterprise, and whether or not it's a good one. The Penguin can't see into the future, he tells Maxi, but it says that this paper he brought might bring forth the exact thing that Maxi needs to put a name for himself in Gotham City. Somehow, I think the Penguin knows this is not going to go well for Maxi, but he really doesn't care. After some training exercises in the Batcave and tips from Nightwing, as far as he can get from Nightwing, the hairdo and all, it's like having a different girlfriend, or pretending that she's a different girlfriend, or it's like she's pretending a different girl altogether. Tim says that he loves Ari for who she is and doesn't want to have to deal with the hair. He just wants to be in love with Ari as she is. Robin decides to clear his head and go out to the Gotham City streets and do some evening patrol. Dick says doing the Robin thing always helped center himself and collect his thoughts whenever he was dealing with something serious, aka meaning dealing with girls. Meanwhile, in the streets below, Maxi Zeus and the Greek chorus are following an armored truck. They pass by the armored truck on the city streets, dumping oil on the water-covered streets, as which we all know water and oil do not mix, and the armored car skids off the road. Robin hears the commotion on the streets below and takes to action. But by the time he gets there, Zeus and his men have pulled the driver from the armored car. Robin swings to the ground, and wouldn't you know it, because of the water and oil, slips to the ground and slides right in front of the Greek chorus. Robin tries to take the big one down, thinking he can use his momentum, but is horribly wrong and is bounced off the side of the armored car. Then, blackness. When Tim regains consciousness, it's still black, kinda, with a small light source on the end of this black cavernous thing that he's in. And then he realizes, oh, it's the armored car. Crap, he's trapped in another armored car. And then a figure comes into the light. It's Maxi Zeus. Wonderful. Maxi grabs Robin by the chin and says, "Grant me audience with the Oracle." And now the cover credits for Robin 30. Robin 30 has a cover date of June 1996 with an on-sale date of April 25th, 1996. Again, the cover price is $1.95, with the same writing credits being Dixon, Fosco, Stan Woosh. The inker on this one is Dick Giordano, of the letters Timothy Harkins. The colorist is the lovely Adrian Roy. Cover credits go to Mike Rowingo and Terry Austin. And now the final synopsis, Iliads and Oddities. And so the people of the city brought ruin upon themselves, as the great wooden horse they did drag within their walls. Doom fell upon them. The edifice proved to be pregnant with Greek soldiers. Thus fell Troy, or in this case, an armored car. And inside of the armored car, in the Troy Freight Company, are Robin and Maxi Zeus and the Greek chorus. Anne believes this is all too real and all too weird, Robin thinks. Robin is tied up and thrown out of the car and dragged behind Maxi Zeus. He has no idea where he's being hauled off to. Once inside, Maxi Zeus and the chorus shut all the exterior doors to the Troy Freight Company. Maxi takes Robin to a payphone and demands that he call the Oracle. He's probably talking about the Greek Oracle, but this also gives Robin the chance to call the real Oracle, aka Barbara Gordon, so she can get a pinpoint on his location. At first, Oracle thinks that this is just a joke, that Tim is playing around, but quickly realizes that Robin is trying to get her to help pinpoint his location and get word back to the GCPD of what is going on. She tells Robin to just play along and keep Maxi talking on the phone as long as possible. Another part of Gotham, the previous night when Tim was locked up inside of the armored car, aka the Trojan horse, Ari had been waiting for Tim to call, but the phone never rang. When it did, it was actually Jake, wanting to take Ari out, and, since that Tim Drake guy's not going to call, why not just go out and they'll just go see the latest Brad Pitt movie? Surely going out with Jake can't be too harmful. The date does not go well as planned, and let's just say Jake is a slime ball. If you know what I mean. Hashtag me too. Back inside the freight company, one of Maxi's men, Hector, has a feeling that Robin might actually be talking to Batman, or Batman's secretary or something, for crying out loud. This is not helping, Max. This is all foolishness. This needs to stop. And just like that, Maxi puts up one finger. Heracles grabs Hector by the head and crushes it, tossing Hector to the floor. Okay, things are now gotten way out of control. Oracle did have enough time to put a trace on the phone before it was hung up to pinpoint Robin's location and send the GCPD there. Robin is able to break free and runs through the warehouse trying to find some way out. Speaking of getting out back on Ari's date, Ari is able to reach to the back seat and grab a set of beer cans and slam them into Jake's face, rolls down the window, hops out. Jake gets his head stuck in the window, yelling after Ari. As she races down the road, tears begin to fall on her face but are masked by the cool rain as she runs back home. Robin too races through the warehouse, only to find one security guard in the building, and wouldn't you know it, it's Helen. Helen of Troy, you've got to be kidding me. This whole night could not be any more on the nose if he tried. Robin grabs Helen by the hand as a thunderous explosion happens, blowing all the windows out of the security office. Maxi Zeus has called down the thunder from the heavens. Okay, it's actually in the form of shotguns. Robin throws some flash grenades, hoping to give distance for him and Helen as they race through the warehouse. Robin thinks if he can't take these guys one-on-one, speed and agility will have to be his best line of defense. Speed more than anything. Robin is able to slide under Heracles, grab a hold of the bay door, and hoist himself up on top. Just as Heracles is ready to rip the door open, the door magically opens, only to find the GCPD officers holding shotguns. Maxi Zeus and the Greek chorus have now been arrested and have been taken away. Robin heads back to the Batcave, telling Oracle and Alfred that everything turned out well and the driver of the armored car and Helen of Troy is okay. Tim wants to get back to Ari to talk to her to say that he might not have exactly been the best boyfriend that he could be. When he arrives back at Ari's house, the blonde hair is gone and she is now the brunette that he once fell in love with. All right, we're back, folks. So, Robin 29 will be our first book we're going to take a look at, and this is something new I'm going to try and do, and I've got notes on the computer to remember to do this. Anytime that we get a new artist or a new writer or somebody like that, or maybe even a villain that we're seeing for the first time in the Robin book, I want to try and do an artist spotlight. And we have Frank Fosco that is the artist for these two books, and I could have swore that these were Micro Ringo books all day long, just pulling them, just cover-wise. Did you guys have that same reaction too, that like, oh, this is just another, and I don't mean this bad, like, oh, it's another Micro Ringo book. Like, I would have bet my bottom dollar that these were Ringo-led books. So let's start with Ryan on this one.
Well, it is a little deceptive, of course, because Ringo did do the cover for both of these issues, right?
Right.
So I didn't really know it wasn't him until you mentioned it in the notes, and I was like, oh, it is a different artist. And so I wonder if that was like they just needed I don't know what the story behind that was, if they needed a fill-in guy or something like that. But it didn't. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's the art fits the books nicely. I just want to get this out of the way now. It's got a lot of fluidity to it. Like, no, and that's for real. Like, I read these books since I'm lazy right now. Well, I didn't want to dig out books in a sweltering hot house, so I read them on DC Universe. It flowed really nicely.
Yeah.
Doing it just single pages too, but not like the normal comic book regular hard copy floppy style or whatever. So it read really well. I think to me it looks like a kind of a interesting mix between Ringo and like a Graham Nolan.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to some of the penguin scenes and stuff like that. It really evoked that to me. So I thought it was solid, and it fits the book and Dixon's writing really well. Yeah,
there was nothing that sometimes we'll say you'll get a fill-in artist, and you can there was that.
Yeah, we've had some issues that
like he had Phil Jimenez on a book. There was nothing wrong with Phil Jimenez doing a couple Robin issues, but they were just so drastically
wacky,
different.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on Frank's art here before we go into the spotlight piece, Terrence?
If you would have just asked me, I would have thought, like you said, that this was a Ringo art because the style is not that far from Ringo, and I don't know this artist's background very much, so I'm interested to hear your artist spotlight when this comes out. And I don't recall him doing a lot of Robin stuff after. Maybe he had a whole run and I just don't know it. So I don't know if he was trying to mimic Ringo's style a little bit, or if they just got him because he was similar in style. But it did, as Ryan said, have nice fluidity between the books, and I thought it was adequate. I thought it was good, but it's still, I don't think it was as good as Ringo's art. It still was not quite on that level, but it wasn't. I wasn't taken out of the story, or I didn't think it was bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's spot on. It's like when you know it's not the normal artist, but it's definitely, once you get to reading it, it just works so well with it. It doesn't. For me, it didn't take me out. And of course, the coloring is just so. We'll get into it when we get into the book, but the coloring on this book actually really stood out to me. It's really good.
I'm curious to look at it digitally. Well, speaking of the book, let's just look at the front cover of 29, which is one of those we always talk about. Things that are on the cover don't happen, but looks like Robin's getting choked with his own bow staff here by two big. At first, I thought when I got this book way back in the day, I thought I keep thinking Magilla Gorilla. That's not wrong universe. I'm trying to think, Gorilla Grodd. That's what I was thinking. Is that like Gorilla Grodd's hands or Calabac or something crazy there choking Robin out? But like you said, this is a Ringo cover, and up close and personal with Robin and going, this kind of leaps out. I wonder what happens to get Tim to this state. What did you guys think of the cover for 29, Ryan?
Well, obviously it's Heracles, right?
Yeah.
He's going up against him.
Right.
How would you guess? No, it's great. And I read this digitally, and I was really impressed because, man, the colors really pop reading the stuff on this. I mean, I can't really take away from reading a hard copy or whatever, and that's obvious. I think that's always going to be my preferred way to read it. But man, just to pick it up on DC Universe and pick the thing, or even on the TV actually. So I've got like a 4K TV, and I haven't really done the comics on the TV much. But what's happened is I've been using the DC Universe a lot lately because I watch the shows and I've been watching Harley Quinn myself, the Harley Quinn animated series, which is just excellent. And my daughter Nora loves Teen Titans right now. She can't not watch enough Teen Titans. So we watch Teen Titans on the iPad. We watch it on the TV when we're downstairs, and because the data in the app gets shared, it's between no matter what device you're using it on, right? So since I've been reading Robin comics, Robin shows up on the suggested list or on the favorites list when you're on the TV. So I'm like, oh man, I wonder what some of this stuff is like, and Sword of Azrael's on there just because we've been covering it on the Azrael podcast, which isn't out yet, but we've been recording the episodes, and so I'm like, I'm gonna just try this out, and I just press play, and it's actually quite breathtaking if you're not used to it, especially if it's a book you've read already. Like a book you hold in high regard, like read a Nightfall book or this Azrael book. You know what's going to happen. It's more like an animated version of the story, and you're like, oh man, they're just going through the art, go through the pages, and you can either do full pages or you can make it like on Comixology where it zooms in on the panels and stuff.
Oh yeah, panel by panel layout.
Panel by panel, and you can just leave it up as almost like a background video or something where it'll just change the panels every 3 to 5 seconds or something. So you can just it's pretty slick. So that's kind of a cool way to read it too. But like I said, these books I read on the iPad, and the colors are great. It just really jumps out at you, and that's a lot to say about the cover, but the cover is great. And I always got to appreciate I generally like the super detailed, lots of action covers, but there's something to be said about a lot of these Robin series covers where it's nothing but Robin's face. There's quite a few of these early on that really got me because he's such an expressive character, and you're just makes you want to read the book. So yeah, so the cover is pretty great.
Terrence,
just to throw it back a little bit to what we were talking about before, I decided to look up and think, well, what did Mike Ringo do during these 2 issues that the time was off? And he may have not done the Robin issues because, and this is just speculation, but right around this same time, the DC Comics, Marvel Comics crossover was out, and they had the Amalgam universe, and he did the art for Spider-Boy, which was a combination of Tim Drake and Peter Parker, which we should probably do as an April Fool's podcast or something one time. And he also did the Avengers number 400, which I don't know if he did the whole art on that or just some of it. So that could possibly be why Ringo only did the covers for these. This cover is cool. It could work for almost anything, though. It's a little generic. I don't know. Does Heracles, does he wear the ring throughout the issue? I got to check because that ring is kind of specific.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not poster worthy, but we need to come up with a ranking. Poster worthy is obviously the top, and then I'm not sure like
house ad, and then
frame worthy. So this is
panel worthy.
Yeah,
not worthy, unworthy.
Tattoo worthy, yeah.
Tattoo, yeah. I got to get this inked. So now that we've looked at the cover, one of the first questions I want to ask you guys, if you remember our Contagion a few episodes back, that the Robin book, at least as far as the trade goes, in Contagion, these two Robin issues are back to back in that trade, which, as far as the Contagion storyline goes, that we're right out of Contagion and back into almost normalcy. Should it be over this quickly? And you can insert our own real world in here, if you will. Sorry that it hasn't happened yet. But once you've had a 3 or 4 month spanning global disaster story, do you guys feel we need a couple issues to let the readers go, oh, okay, let's not have everybody have the world falling on top of us? Terrence?
Yeah, I kind of like just jumping back to normal. I think Jeff Johns was pretty famous for doing these sort of like in-between issues or little like showcase half stories of like, how the heroes like always rebuild after a crisis, and the Flash kind of comes in and puts everything together in about 3 hours at super speed and that kind of stuff. So I'm okay with just acting like, oh yeah, it's all back to normal, and just having kind of a this kind of story.
Ryan?
Going through what the real world is going through right now, I'm like, hey, wait a second. They're not even in phase 1 of reopening yet. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
That's right.
Like, where are the masks?
Like, there's no... Yeah, exactly. That's the most unbelievable part of Contagion altogether, is that nobody's wearing masks or nothing.
Yeah.
No hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer's not even mentioned.
There's toilet paper and paper towels everywhere. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Tim's hands on the front page, or on the first page of the book, his hands aren't chapped from putting on so much hand sanitizer. Like
it's for real.
Yeah, and the term "flattening the curve" is not used once.
Or social distancing.
Yeah. Ari just really wants to hug Tim with her stupid blonde hair. So, one of the notes I have in here.
Yeah, I can't even get a haircut. How did she dye her hair?
How did she? Now, we know that the Babylon Towers had this wonderful salon in it, and it burnt to the ground. There's no way she got her hair dyed during this whole fiasco.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was an editorial kind of semi-mandate where it was like, yeah, we did Contagion, and we're gonna ramp it back up in a couple months with another crossover or whatever. So, like, next couple issues are your chance to kind of hit reset or make these books easy for people to jump in or something.
Yeah. What I think is funnier through this opening scene with her being there, that Mrs. McElbain is making shepherd's pie, and Tim's like, I don't even like shepherd's pie, and I like brunettes, I don't know what you guys thought of Ari through this book, but I was like, we had said it before in a previous episode, like where she slaps Tim at the graveyard. Like, I want to go, why are you dating this chick again?
Yeah.
I would be very interested to see what sort of letters were in the letters column for this issue, if people had the same reaction for Ariana, like, yeah, Tim's too good for her, blah,
It's issues 34 and 35. I have them, if we can go through them. They weren't that spectacular. But,
no.
Yeah, but the thing is, the last issue 28, there's like this big sort of cliffhanger, right?
A huge cliffhanger. That we talked about that on the last episode before this. We were just like, what could this possibly be? And I read ahead. I was like, I have to know what this is right now. So I read ahead, and I was like, really? They did a whole cliffhanger of a comic book on somebody changing their hair color? It's amazing.
I actually kind of really like it, because having 2 teenage daughters myself, one right now is about to turn 15 and the other just turned 19, and being a middle school teacher and being around a lot of middle school aged kids, like, someone changing their hair color is a big deal to kids. Like, not to us, like, we're like, whatever, but to that age group and that kids and doing that suddenly, like, it is a big deal. So I think it's kind of fun that it's not really a big deal, but that Tim thinks it's such a big deal. And I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but it leads to such a great scene later on between Tim and Nightwing. So I'll wait till we get to it. But that is just so classic.
Speaking of classic, we've got a little villain spotlight in Maxi Zeus. First appeared in Detective Comics issue 483, April and May of 1979. It was created by
Denny Jim Aparo.
Yeah.
Art?
Well, actually, this is Denny O'Neil and Don Newton, but he, Aparo had done like a lot of his more classic stuff. So one of the questions I think maybe we've kind of talked about this before during the Nightfall podcast, is Denny O'Neil trying to have his way, like bringing in the Batman 66 into mainstream because of the copyright issues? Like, I'd like to have King Tut, but DC really doesn't have the rights to it, if you can believe that, now that we've got like all this Batman 66 stuff. So do you think that this just screams, King Tut? Do you think this was their way of having a King Tut type character? Because they both have like that amnesia or mental facility where, like in the 66 show, King Tut would kind of come in and out of it, where Maxi's
you just swap the Egyptian, Egyptian motif for the Greek gods motif. Yeah, it's pretty much the same kind of character, especially the way he's portrayed here. Now, in some comics, they put a different slant on him, like where he's like super muscular, or he's like really a killer, and he's really a threat. But around this Nightfall period, I'm pretty sure he was kind of really downplayed as kind of a joke, because I thought that this was interesting that they were able to. This is like a latent Nightfall tie-in here, because they were like, oh, he's one of the last people that's still out there, which kind of shows like how much people didn't really care of his threat level. I just remember him getting punched out. I thought he would have gotten captured fast, because he got punched in the face by like Bullock, right? Right after the breakout. So
Harvey, look out! One escapee heading your way!
Well, there's quite a few of these guys. I'm not going to be running around for too long.
Oh, free! Free to gather my legions once more! They thought to imprison a god! Ha! I only had to call down thunderbolts to rescue me from their feeble grasp! They can never contain Maxi Zeus!
Hey, Maxi!
Yes?
Message for you from Mount Olympus. You gotta have a way with these people.
You're sick, Harv.
but I guess he still managed to escape after that.
And in the audio drama, they play him as just a really like, oh my gosh, I'm running free.
And he just punches him. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty. I remember the audio drama. You could probably slip it in here. He's like, no one will escape Maxi Zeus, and it's like,
yeah, that's already going to be in here.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on Zeus, Terrence?
It was either one of two things. Either, yeah, you're right, they wanted to bring in King Tut, couldn't, swapped out the Egyptian for Greek, or they needed an idea. They couldn't think of anything. They looked, well, how can we just take this guy and change him just enough so it's something new for this month? And that's how it was. I also feel like right around this time, because these books are cover date 1996, Batman the Animated Series was super hot at this time and really popular, as we'll see in an upcoming podcast when we talk about Detective Comics 697, 8, and 9. They introduced the character of Lockup from the animated series into the books. Pretty soon, Harley Quinn is going to be a big part of DC
What an
Universe.
interesting time frame that we're in this while the animated series is going on.
So I know Maxi Zeus was in the animated series, so I wonder too if some of this was just getting that feel of the animated series, because not so much the Ariana with her hairdo thing, but the actual Maxi Zeus storyline feels very much like an animated series kind of vibe to it. So that's more what I took from it than the 66 show.
I can definitely see that. This wasn't in the notes, but I did want to put this in here of Tim and Ari in the car, and Ari planning a kiss on Tim. And like you were talking about her hair, like it's a big deal. I can remember my sisters getting their hair done, and I'm like, so what, it's shorter, or you curled it, big deal. But I think this kind of plays into that. Like, you know, I do notice you, but it was more pulling at like, you just did your hair just because of that blonde girl, and then she darts out of the car. So,
well, you notice she's also wearing purple. Well,
Like,
that's also, which is weird. It's also, purple is also kind of Ariana's color also.
Yeah.
Right? So
it wasn't anything I wanted to belabor too much, but I think it was just one of those that...
And my divergent question, too, is Tim driving the Redbird? Does the Redbird have transformation qualities into like a regular red car?
Yes.
I thought it did. Okay.
Yep. And the green tinted, and you've got not the roll bar, but the T-tops that are going up through there. So yeah, I definitely believe that's the Redbird, or the sports coupe, I guess what's technically right now.
Yeah, and in the 80-page annual that I bought, the Redbird features in it, and they have some interior shots too, so it looks kind of like a normal car in the interior.
Well, I know this is up your alley, Terrence, with what you do for school, so you're going to be our Greek authority through most of these two issues we have. How is Dixon handling the Greek part of Maxi Zeus and, kind of his demeanor? Does this feel like something you can show your kids in class and go, hey, Dixon's got it right? Or are you like, okay, hold it, time out, Dixon. You got 12 things wrong and none of them are right.
He does it really well. I think I've talked about this on an earlier podcast. The Greeks are a unit that I've been covering for about 15 years. And one of the fun things that I do during the Greek unit is I show the kids, and this is probably not allowed, but I do it anyway. I show the kids the episode of Justice League Unlimited, This Little Piggy, where Wonder Woman gets turned into a pig, and it's got all this Greek mythology stuff, and the kids just love it. And Batman goes down to Hades, and they meet Justice, and they meet the witch Circe, who's from the Odyssey, and it's kind of funny because the Red Tornado's in it, and the kids have no idea who the Red Tornado is. But over the years, they've been guessing different people. So they see like this like whirlwind, and the kid's like, it's the Flash, and they're like, no, Red Tornado. And now recently they've been like, it's Vision, that's the Vision, and I'm like, no, wrong universe. And then Bwana Beast is in it and stuff. Dixon, not that I'm an expert in Greek mythology, but he seems to get everything correct, although he doesn't dive too deep into stuff. Like, he's not real technical. I do like, and this is kind of a nitpick, but they get it right. They refer to Maxi Zeus's henchman as Heracles, which is the Greek version. Hercules is the Roman version of the name, which is weird because so many things that are supposedly Greek, like the Disney movie Hercules, like they just use the name Hercules all the time. So the whole Trojan horse thing just reminds me so much of the Simpsons episode Lemon of Troy, where Homer and them hide in the RV, and he's like, no one in history has ever thought of anything like this. So, yeah. But no, I give him an A+ for accuracy.
Cool. Again, this is something else I left off the notes. Probably more about the hair, but it's fun to see Ives and Tim's classmates. And again, I think we've said it numerous times on the show. I think that's probably arguably another one of our favorite things about this era of Robin is just his classmates, his home life. It really makes the characters feel more flushed out and more real. You can kind of relate to everything here.
I like that Robin, or Tim, I should say, is kind of like middle of the road in high school. Like, he's not one of the cool guys, but he's not the complete loser, nerd, like Peter Parker in the first Spider-Man movie, where, like, he's like, even the bus driver won't stop for him. Like, the bus driver sees him. The bus driver makes him run. Then no one on the school bus wants Peter Parker to sit next to him. They go on the field trip. The teachers doesn't even like him. Like, he's just the pariah of the school, where, Tim's just like a normal guy, so I like that part.
And also, if you would think, too, that Tim's probably in the top of his class, so he's probably falling more on the nerd side of the spectrum, or the geek, but also with that probably comes a lot more respect. Like, all right, that's the kid that's breaking. Talk about flattening the curve. Tim Drake's probably the one wrecking the curve for everybody in physics and all that stuff too. So I like that aspect. Like you said, he's not stuck in the corner somewhere like that. Tim Drake's just stuck in a locker again.
Yeah. Hey, I know the next scene coming up here is Nightwing. I love this scene. But do you think Chuck Dixon, I'll say this, because Nightwing appears here, then in the Detectives issue, we'll talk about it in a future podcast of 697, 98, and 99, Nightwing's in it again. Do you think editorial was telling Chuck Dixon, like, you need to add in some Nightwing, keep Nightwing in these stories? Or do you think Chuck was putting him in on his own because he loved the character so much and thought it was a good beat? I think Chuck's putting it in on his own, but I was wondering what you guys thought of that.
I would think the same thing. I think knowing that Dixon is writing... Is he writing all three? Yeah, he's writing all three at this point. So, like...
All three what?
Like, he's writing Robin, Nightwing, and Detective.
I don't think Nightwing's out yet.
He's not? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Oh, that's right. So that's probably even more to him, like, well, I want a chance to use Nightwing, and maybe this is one of those things by him just putting them in there. They're like, well, you've got a really good voice for Dick, so why not eventually write the Nightwing series? So anything for you, Ryan, on that?
No, I agree. It just seems like it just looks like a fun scene that Dixon would add in, and the dialogue is so punchy and perfect in this. Like, it's only one page, but so much comes across in it, and I love pages like that. The same thing goes with this with the two preceding pages with Ives talking to Tim, and the transition between Tim drinking some milk and him talking to Nightwing's great, and just seeing the Penguin and that kind of interaction works really well, because we didn't see Penguin much in Nightfall and some of the books around there, so to see him back with the Iceberg Lounge and all that is really fun to see.
Nightwing's regular series started later this same year, so you were close, and he had done that Alfred's Return, and he had done the miniseries.
That's right.
So it was close, but...
And didn't Denny O'Neil do the miniseries, and Dixon did the main series when it started?
They're just out of reach.
Yeah, I'd have to check that. It sounds about right.
I'm pretty sure. It was like, yeah, it was probably like Dixon doing the, or was it Denny that did the Nightwing's or Alfred's Return? I don't remember anymore.
Chuck Dixon, Volume 2 Nightwing did issue 1. So yeah, O'Neil did do the miniseries, and then for issue 1 of Nightwing, that's Dixon. So
there you go.
Yep.
This is such a Nightwing move here, where Tim's like, oh, first of all, it's such a mopey teenager thing. Like, my girlfriend changed her hair. Like, it's the end of the world. Like, teenagers, like, such little stuff. And I was guilty of it too as a teenager. I'm glass houses and throwing stones, but the littlest things, you just think it's the end of the world, and it's such a big deal, and you just have no perspective. And then Nightwing is just like, dude, man, that's just like getting to be with a different girl, man. That's just awesome. Like, this is like the worst advice ever you can give, but it's such a Nightwing kind of answer. Like, and it's such a good older brother, younger brother dynamic that I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that would be Dick to go right for the, I've always wanted to date a blonde chick. Now I am dating a blonde chick, but it's the same chick.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get Barbara or Corey to change their hair color.
Yeah.
Corey, you be blonde, and now you be a brunette. The next few pages in the Reign here, 9 through 12, Fosco's art, I really like, but something I think Ryan said earlier, I feel like there's a little bit of a shift in his art through here, where especially when Robin is swinging through, like when Dick says, hey, go do the Robin thing, basically, like, get out of your head for a minute and go bust some bad guys. So when he's swinging through and landing on the buildings and doing some flips, I think that's really cool. This is probably the one section, I think the Reign looks really good, but where it looks like he dips out of his art style a little bit, or maybe it's supposed to be, messy is the wrong word. It's supposed to be distorted because of the Reign, because the cars and the buildings and everything look good, but Tim looks a little off model. Did you guys pick up on that at all?
I did, yeah, and that's probably the page where I noticed that it was definitely a different artist. Like the Nightwing page on page 9, you could almost pass it off as Graham Nolan, and then you get to the next page, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is definitely not the same artist. But it's fine, it holds up. I mean, and I love that visual continuity of the Reign going through the whole issue. Like, it's just kind of always there in the background, and even I just love how many different scenes with different characters there are in this issue, where you'll jump from Tim and Ariana in the car, and then you'll go to Maxi Zeus and it's still raining, or where the Penguin is in the Iceberg Lounge and it's still raining, and you go back in the Batcave and then you come back out, it's still raining. I just think that's cool, because it grounds you in that world a little bit more when
Terrence?
they think about the continuity of what the world is doing.
Oh, yeah, I agree. In my notes, I wrote, Ari is off to go see 12 Monkeys with Brad Pitt. So she takes a phone call at home, and while she has just kissed him, and the kiss either must have been really good or like, wow, Drake's really smart, but he can't kiss worth a darn. So as soon as Jake calls, she's out of here. So I did a little looking when, Jake says, hey, do you want to go see the, Brad Pitt movie? I was like, I wonder what movie that is. So 12 Monkeys was released on December 29th, 1995. And his next movie would be Sleeper, which was released October 18th, 1996. So this is probably like the tail end of the run for 12 Monkeys. So it's one of those things that Dixon says he didn't do very often, is try and ground or put like real world things in there. But it was one of those, like, I wonder what movie was out there, if, like, because Dixon has said before that he would just, be holed up in a hotel and like blast out three or four issues and then you go back home. So I'm wondering the TV, like the pay-per-view was like up next on pay-per-view, 12 Monkeys, or, you could get a movie in your hotel room, or maybe there was a movie theater outside the hotel. He's like, oh yeah, that's that Brad Pitt movie. So it's one of those little things that he doesn't do too often, but puts a real world twist in there that this does date this movie right to that point. So
sometimes seeing pop culture references in comics it obviously dates them, but sometimes it's fun. And in this case, it's definitely fun because the cell phone it's like a chunky 90s cell phone, and they're talking about a Brad Pitt movie. It's just fun. It's not as cool as some of the like third base stuff like popping in here and stuff like that, but it's still kind of a cool reference.
Yeah, he picked a good actor because, Brad Pitt just won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Here it is 24, 25 years later, so at least he picked someone who stayed relevant all this time.
Right. The other thing that I liked in here, once Tim gets thrown into the armored truck, is there's like a little throwaway line of Tim like, oh, I've been stuck in an armored truck before. And for anybody keeping track, if probably not, I'm probably the only nerd here, but issue 5, Tim was stuck in an armored truck that was being buried with the Clue Master. So just one of those little things that
I love that callback.
Yeah, just those little things, just that kind of made me smile. Like, Dixon went clear back to issue 5 and like, I got Tim in a truck. Like, why not reference that? So we do get the Trojan horse reference towards the tail end of this, the Brad Pitt reference, and might as well put the Troy movie in 2004. Can Dixon see into the future? Probably not. But so everybody knows the term Trojan horse. The other thing that is brought in here is Oracle. So when you're reading the last couple panels in here, he wants to speak to Oracle. So you're left to believe, like, all right, is this another Greek god that he is talking about, or does he actually, in fact, know that there is this person out there called Oracle that Robin and Batman talk to? So did you guys... now hindsight being 2020, we know kind of what the ins and outs are, but is my Greek mythology's way off? Is Oracle a Greek character, or is that just something that Dixon just threw in there to kind of just put that in there? I want to go to Terrence on this one first.
So the Oracle, there's a Greek city called Delphi, and so there was the Oracle at Delphi that was basically like a fortune teller. So she was kind of like a priestess, and she always spoke in riddles, like beware the man with one sandal or something. Like, it was never like go to this place and receive your fortune, it was always in the stories riddles and like puzzles and things that if you tried to avoid it, then you would just make it happen kind of thing. So that's where the Oracle, being like a source of information, a source of the future and knowledge, is a Greek thing, and that's where Barbara Gordon got the name from. So I always took it here as just Maxi Zeus was thinking that this was the Oracle, the fortune teller, the same as the Greek legends.
Gotcha. Any thoughts on that, Ryan?
Other than when I read the book and you get to that cliffhanger, I'm like, well, now here's a cliffhanger, and
that's not
compared to the previous issue. But yeah, I knew it had to be the Batman character Oracle. Otherwise, why wouldn't you, right? And this is around the time, right, where Birds of Prey is becoming a thing, and you're getting Oracle, and it made me wonder: had Oracle been in this series yet, or is this the first issue she's in?
This is the first appearance of Oracle in Robin. She has been made mention. I think her computer of that almost looked like alien-looking computer design that we would see, but I think this is her first actual physical appearance. So that's kind of cool to be able to see her in this way. And I'm almost positive this is the first one if I read those notes correctly on Wikipedia, but
I just wanted to mention, if you look at the letter column for issue 29, it's just the generic Robin. We've had 3 miniseries, 4 annuals, and 29
How many
issues.
How many years? 3 at this point?
More, right?
Pushing.
Wasn't it?
Well,
96 is including the miniseries too.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, at least 3 years for the Robin book, and then even more for the annuals and miniseries. But in our next issue, everything's going to change. All that long wait. What took them 3 years to come up with? What
Round
magic?
Robin? right?
Yeah.
And I think even we had read a letter column that there were people writing in like, oh, you ought to call it Round Robin. I would love to go back and sift through the audio of the podcast, but I'm probably not going to do it because I'm not going to find the episode. But I think even editorial said, like, they kind of poo-pooed the idea of calling it Round Robin. Like, I don't know about Round Robin, but keep those names coming or something. Like, I know we talked about it.
It was definitely one of the first 5 names that were sputtered out when they were going over suggestions.
Yeah. And to find out by 30, they were finally
They should have just called it the Drake.
Yeah, they should have. They should have saw into the future. Like, we know this is where this is going to go.
Yeah.
People are going to love this.
Yeah. And the next issue that month, all of the letter columns changed format as far as like the style and layout and everything. So maybe they got.
That's probably why they changed it, because they were like, we really got to rename this guy.
Yeah.
Just can't say Robin down the side.
Yeah. Round Robin. Brilliant. Yeah.
We put 2 R's because we know Tim's going to be called Red Robin at some point.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah.
So let's look at our last book.
Get that guy Scott Lobdell down here and get him to come up with a name here. Yeah.
We'll show you what. And get Brett Booth down here. We got pouches and straps and a winged suit to put on this guy.
Yeah.
Back to Happier Times, issue 30 of Robin. And we've got Mike Raringo led cover here. Again, it's the same writing team with Fosco doing it, but we got the Raringo cover here. It's Robin with a sword, standing on top of a Greek god with a bunch of sirens in the background. What do you guys think of the cover for Robin number 30, Terence?
I'm going with the highest honors of poster worthy for this cover. I love this cover. I would definitely hang this as a poster in my room. I love, so many posters want to make the hero in like peril and beat up and in the worst possible state and broken and bloody. I love one seeing the hero pretty triumphant and like, won the day. And I just the pose and everything and the sword, and it's almost like he's winking at you a little bit.
He's got a little smirk, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome.
Ryan.
It's awesome, but it's also like, I don't know if we need another rating of like super misleading cover, because nothing like this happens in the issue.
Right.
I don't know what arena he's in. I don't know who the women in the background with the thumbs down are. They're not in the issue. Like,
they clearly don't like it. They're like, hey, this doesn't happen. Boo.
Well, and not only that, the artist isn't even in the issue. It's a Ringo cover on a Fosco book. Yeah.
It confused me because in my head when we were doing this issue, I was like, wait, haven't we read this already? It really...
I did too.
You go back and look at the covers, it really could slot right in with like issue like 19 when he's in... fighting Ulysses, Hadrian, Armstrong.
That's what it was.
Like, it just seems like it would fit in with that cover-wise. He's in an arena fighting like gladiator type stuff. Yeah, Lion one issue and in the arena that the previous issue. So it just seems like it would naturally flow with that one. Can you all tell me exactly what the hell Maxi Zeus's plan was in these 2 books?
I skimmed over it because it's not really clear.
Because I was trying to... I mean, he's doing stuff. It's like a bad Batman 66 episode where you're like, like stuff just happens and then you kind of have to figure out why later. Like, we're watching it right now, and some of the episodes are really hilarious because it's like Joker showed up and then he's doing a thing, and then Batman foiled it 5 minutes in, so he's like, I gotta do something else now, and then literally in these 2 episodes, Batman basically leads Joker along to tries to trick him into doing stuff so he can arrest him and stuff. It's really weird. It's like if Batman wouldn't have interfered, Joker wouldn't have done anything wrong in the episode. And then in the next one, Bruce Wayne lets Catwoman out of the state penitentiary on like good behavior, but Bruce Wayne's still Catwoman's social worker. And then Catwoman, of course, starts doing crimes and stuff. And I'm like, dude, if you didn't let her out, there would have been nothing to stop. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's really interesting, like, some of these... Like, Season 2... we're in Season 2, and a lot of the plots get a lot less formulaic compared to the Season 1. Season 1's very, like... You got the bat phone, go down the bat poles, meet at the police headquarters, we gotta go... It's this villain, go back and... have a fight and win, and then have a fight, and then have a cliffhanger, and then do episode 2, and but season 2 is, a lot of the episodes are not like that, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I was reading these issues again, and I'm like, what exactly is Maxi trying to even do?
Like, the closest thing I got is when he's standing on that billboard, and I've got it written in the synopsis, but he's standing on the billboard and looking at the Troy Armored Freight Company.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's the Armored Freight Company? It's not, I think I even said while we were talking, like, the bank or whatever. It's just the freight company that's carrying the money. That's not actually the bank. It's just where the armored cars are held. So he's taking the armored car to hang out with other armored cars that maybe, possibly, there's money in some of the armored cars. So
yeah,
that's it. Like, oh, we've got this. He goes, talks to the Penguin, and the Penguin
he
says,
he shows Penguin this plan, like, and I'm like, what is this though? Yeah,
that's about it. And then it's just like, it does feel like a 66 kind of episode when you
But it seems like Penguin is the one who told Maxi Zeus about Oracle.
Yeah,
because he's like, Penguin's like, I'm not a clairvoyant, I don't know what to do, and he's like, I need to know, I need a prophet, and he's like, oh, what about the Oracle? So I think that's kind of part of it.
The beginning of this, and so you could probably help me with this one, the opening monologue that's written here, and so for the people of the city brought the ruin upon themselves as the great wooden horse they did drag with their walls. What is that from?
So I don't know exactly which one, but it's from the Iliad. So to give you it real quick, there's 2 Greek stories, the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Iliad is basically the story of the Trojan War, and then the Odyssey is the story of Odysseus, the hero from the war, trying to get home. Oddly enough, the Iliad, the original Greek Iliad, which is written by Homer, does not mention the Trojan horse, and that's in later versions. There's this version called the Aeneid by a Roman writer named Virgil that has the Trojan horse in it. So I think Maxi Zeus even makes some kind of mention somewhere about how it wasn't in the initial. So that's why the story is called Iliads and Odysseys instead of Iliad and Odyssey. And it's the original Greek. It was an oral story, so there's different versions, and then there's translations of the different versions. So I'm not quite sure if this was just Chuck Dixon writing something that kind of sounded like it would be from it, or if this is from a translation of it from somewhere else. Usually if they do a translation like this, they'll cite it somewhere, like, for copyright and plagiarism reasons. So I'm guessing this is Chuck Dixon original verse to sound like some ancient Greek versions of the Iliad, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, like I had alluded to earlier, that this is their Trojan horse being inside the armored car, which is actually kind of ingenious. You have one of your guys dress up as a security guard, the truck is broken down, and it just gets taken right back into the armory, so to speak, and or the mint, and everybody else is hiding inside of it, just like, the Greek tale. So I think it's really kind of ingenious, and even though Maxi may be kind of crazy, he's smart enough to at least be able to pull this off. And I think that the Penguin kind of says, well, we've got this idea, or there's this other thing that you can do. So the Penguin is probably kind of helping steer Maxi to this a little bit, and maybe thinking like, well, I'll give you this plan or idea, but you're probably going to end up getting caught. So yeah, go ahead and try it. So I did think that was kind of interesting that it's Maxi Zeus that's pulling this out. And a note that I have here is, this is kind of one of those sensitive subjects, but Dixon is addressing it over the next couple of issues, is Ari's in a bit of a situation with Jake in the car. Now, I know it's something that she is kind of going out of her way to make a point to Tim, like, you're not really paying attention to me, so Jake just happened to call, and I'm going to go out on this date, and now she's kind of in a predicament. But what do you think happened to her in this car? Because he's leaning in for the kiss right here, and it's kind of like, does that TV cut away, and we're back to Robin and Maxi Zeus. Before we get to that, I kind of want to pick your guys' brains of what could potentially be going on here. Let's start with Terrence. So, and we talked about this a little bit before the podcast started. Some more of what happens here with Ari in the car gets fleshed out in issue 40, where she kind of talks to Tim about that night and what happens here. But, sort of on page 6, you could just kind of tell by her body language, the look on her face, that she is not receptive to what's going on. She's just kind of naive. Like, oh yeah, these boys just want to go see a movie with me.
Right,
that's fun. Like,
she's
enjoying
the newfound attention she's getting with the hair,
and not realizing that they want more than just seeing a movie with her. Yeah,
right. I thought the same thing too. Like, she's got her new haircut. Tim has noticed her, and
her post-pandemic haircut. Coloring.
It's one of those things, like, we've been holed up in quarantine for months. I'm going to go out with them to the movie with any boy that's going to pay any attention to me. So not thinking things through could lead you down a road that, hey, you're not wearing your mask. You probably should. And B, don't get in cars with strange people if you don't have your head screwed on straight.
And Tim is like not the greatest boyfriend either. Like, he flakes out all the time. Like, where's
they both kind of suck for each other, like, in terms of they're really flaky.
Yeah, and you could clearly tell, like, Tim is constantly not there. So, well, if you're not here, somebody else could be.
And Tim's checking out blondies at funerals. I mean, come on, it's just
right. Tim's got the wandering eye. So we have our first kill in this issue. Hercules just killed a dude with his bare hands and literally crushed his head. That's that was kind of a little bit of a gruesome there, like, with his eyes bulging out there. So I really liked the art here and seeing, his little legs. Almost looks like, Wile E. Coyote trying to run to catch the Roadrunner there. Barbara looks a little wonky in some of on page 8. I don't know if it's almost like a minimalism type of art, just in shadows and, throwing the coins. I thought was a nice little touch there. But
she looks a little incomplete in some of the pages. And I was wondering about this Heracles guy. Like, is he a metahuman? Because he seems abnormally big and strong. They never really fleshed it out. And does he think he's Hercules or Heracles? Because he seems to go along with everything. Like, he never has that panel, like that sidebar of like, oh, Maxi's got me in this crazy getup, or he's got me dressed this weird way, or my name's not Heracles, it's Frank, or something like that. He just goes along with it, kind of.
They say he's big and stupid, and he basically just takes orders. I mean, the fact that he does surrender. And at the end with the cops, instead of blindly trying to fight them all, says a lot. I think he's just like a big dumb guy. Like, that's what it seems.
Yeah. Well, and then the other henchmen are kind of like always talking under their breath about Maxi. Like, okay, here we go. There was a couple panels of like, all right, this is what we're doing. Like, come down off the sign. Maxi's got his Thunderbolt. And it's raining. It's like, hey, my Thunderbolt's getting a little damp. They're holding the umbrella over him. I forget, what one of them says, but it's written in really small print, like they're talking underneath their breath. But yeah, you're right. He doesn't really have any dialogue at all here.
And the coins are a nice touch because in Greek mythology, you need to pay the boatman. Mm-hmm. In Hades, the boatman is Charon to cross the river Styx. And in that Justice League Unlimited episode, this little piggy, Batman's got some ancient Greek coins, some drachmas in his utility belt. And in the commentary, I forget who it is, but one of the creators says, like, yep, he's even got Greek drachmas in that utility belt. So I make that joke with the kids. I steal that joke every time I show that episode, and I don't think they really get it. But it's still, if you ever need a Greek drachma, Batman's got one, along with the kryptonite ring. Yeah.
That's right. So Tim is able to get away from his captors, and it moves a little quick through here, but we get back to the car with, I about said Stephanie, the blonde hair is really throwing me, Ari, and I feel like when I read this, I must have missed a page, because I've missed the scene where she puts he's trying to kiss her, she gets the cans of soda, probably beer, and slaps him in the head with it, and then rolls up the window as he's reaching his head through it and gets his head and neck caught in the window, and she's storming off. So I read this twice, and I must have flipped through this as I was doing notes, so this page totally went over my head. So I thought this was cool that she's a fighter. She did not like what was going on, and what'd you guys think of this scene just art-wise? I thought Fosco did a really good job, and again, we were talking about colors. The colors are really nice on these two pages. Terrence.
Delicate balancing act, because this is still a Comic Code Authority approved comic, and it is still 1996, where comics are thought of as kids, and it is the Robin title, which is probably skewered towards a bit of a younger audience than, say, your Detective Comics or your Deathstroke, the Terminator, or Vertigo line. Yeah, at the same point, Dixon wants to take this issue of like date rape and very seriously, and and obviously this is something he's going to explore later on in the run, specifically issue 40 when Ari tells Tim about this night. So yeah, like you, I thought, how did he get his head stuck in the window here? But not everything has to be shown in specific detail, and I think that kind of adds an element of comedy and levity to it to walk that tightrope of seriousness. So, it's done really well, I think.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it looks like she clocks him on the head with the beer cans, and it pushes his head through the window, and then she pushes the window up. Yeah. And earlier you were saying, like, well, what exactly happened in the car? I think this page kind of says it all, and it's one of those instances where not seeing exactly what happened is probably more effective than being explicit about it. So yeah, and I agree, the colors really jump out here. Really well done.
We've got a big Greek theme going through here. I gotta half wonder, did anybody eye roll when the security guard, her name is Helen? So where Tim was like, of course, your name is Helen of Troy, the Troy bank, or the armored car security system. So
I thought it was Renee Montaña's night job at first, but
yeah. She's not getting enough of the GCPD. She's got to be a security guard, but doesn't want them to know, so she goes by her middle name of Helen.
Oh, this is Renee's less successful sister. Helen Montaña. She failed out of the police academy, but Renee made it. Yeah.
I think it's cool that Dixon writes Tim that he's smart enough to know that he always can't count on his luck when he comes up to bigger foes like the KG Beast and in Bane, that he's got to be smarter, because he tried, kicking the guy once and that didn't work out, but getting the jump on him and being able at least to knock him over, like we were talking, I think Ryan had said it, by the time the security door opens up, there's all the GCPD and Tim's at the top of it. So what'd you guys think of Tim being able to use his brain and then being able to finally get back home and head back to Ari before we get our next quasi cliffhanger?
Yeah, this is a good zone for Tim Drake. I know later on in the Jeff Johns run, and even with James Tynion IV, Tim is like the smartest guy who ever lived and a super genius. Here, I feel like he's above average intelligence. He's a smart guy, but he's not super genius, has everything figured out, 12 steps ahead.
He's still scrappy.
Yeah.
Which, to me, that was kind of one of the biggest things I had to get over when I started reading the Tynion run of Detective, where it's like, where did this whole, like, Tim Drake is a Superboy genius thing? I'm like, where did that come from? And to learn that it was kind of a thing, more of a thing from the Jeff Johns Teen Titans type stuff, I was like, oh, okay, well, they're just kind of melding it in two. And I mean, the whole boy genius and best detective other than Batman thing don't always mean the same thing to me. What's fun is that he grows into that role in this series. So by the time he gets to the end of the series, and in the Red Robin series in particular, he's definitely much more, even more independent and capable of being a detective on top of being a superhero.
Well, that's a nice thing too. With this, we're still in the early, where we just hit, issue 30. Like, Tim is still getting his footing, and I don't expect him to be, like you said, the Superboy genius. That Tim's got to figure out. No, this guy's probably 6'2", 350 pounds. Like, he's gonna crush my skull, and I gotta work smarter. I can't go toe to toe like Batman can. So as quickly as girls cut their hair, they will color their hair, and wouldn't you know it, Ari is back to being brunette, and we've got Maxi Zeus back in the newly remodeled Arkham Asylum. So what did you guys think of the conclusion of this? And then I guess the last tag on would be Fosco. This are his only 2 Robin issues, and he will go on to do like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff, but he's really kind of tapered off in the mid-2000s. He's active, but not overly active. So we only got 2 issues to really kind of look at his art and kind of reflect on it as quick as it is. So final thoughts in the ending. Let's start with Ryan on this one.
I mean, I liked it. It's definitely, both of these issues are such a good couple of issues that you can read out of continuity. You can read this could take place anywhere, you know. You don't have to read a whole bunch of other crossovers or whatever to get into this. And it's not a super A-list villain, but it's a fun villain, and there's a lot of cool character stuff for Tim Drake in this. It's just really well written and just a whole lot of fun. So it's just it was actually just a blast to just jump in and read a couple of Robin issues, and that's the best thing I can say about these is like low bar of entry. Just like open up DC Universe, read Robin 29 and 30, have a good time with it. It's like a good episode of the animated series, you know.
Terrence.
I'm going to go to issue 35 to the letter columns about this. And the issue column is Round Robin. There was a letter from a guy named Bob. What is it with these Rob and Bob guys? Because he's got a very similar attitude to you, Rob. Here you'll see who...
Bob Myers.
I love Robin.
Bob Friars.
Bob Kowalski from Detroit, Michigan. But he says, I'm just going to paraphrase, but he says it's kind of interesting that the underworld, like Maxi Zeus, knew about Oracle and that he thought that Oracle's security would be better. And I think that's kind of cool that, like, at this point in these story arcs, like, the underworld is hearing rumors about the Oracle and finding out and what exactly is she. I think that's kind of cool. The ending with Ariana's hair going back to normal is fine, and it'd be a little confusing with Stephanie Brown, who's the blonde hair, you know. And Maxi Zeus, the line about, what is it, Xanax isn't a god, Maxi, it's a drug. That was pretty funny, you know. Bob Kowalski writes in here, so this is issue 35, glad Oracle had a hand in taking down Maxi and company. I'd like to see her assist again in this and your other DC titles. Her infrequent teamings with Black Canary, which I also like, aren't enough to sate my thirst for Oracle escapades. Then next paragraph he says, as for Ariana, I'm glad she went back to her original look. Okay, Jake was a jerk, but he does have a point. Quote, you dye your hair, you start wearing hot-looking clothes. If you don't want guys to get the message, quit sending the signals.
Oh, boy. Lord.
Yeah. So then Gorf took him to task and said, my wife, the social worker, Amy, would take great umbrage at your blame the victim stance.
I mean, he's basically parroting what
jerk.
He's parroting what the jerk said in the book.
Yeah.
He's like, I took the signals. This is what you get. I know what you want. Like, whew.
I said it was a Brad Pitt movie. Come on, you know what that means.
Yeah. Brad Pitt and blonde hair. Like,
yeah.
It's third base, and I ain't talking about the band either.
Yeah.
So before I put my foot in my mouth anymore for this episode, this is probably where we need to get out of this show before, you know, the plague comes back. Gee, I hope it doesn't happen really quick. Oh, it's going to. So this is where we're going to end this episode. On the behalf of Terrence and Ryan, who's in his hot box, we got to get him out of here, folks. I'm Rob, and
we should have done a Mr. Freeze story for Ryan.
Sorry, buddy. You've been listening to the BatmanUniverse.net, and more importantly, you've been listening to Robin. Everyone loves the Drake. We'll see you in a few weeks. Take care. Bye. Thanks for listening to Robin, Everyone Loves the Drake podcast. This has been brought to you by the BatmanUniverse.net. Tim Drake, Robin, and all Batman-related characters are under copyright of DC Comics. This podcast is solely for entertainment purposes, so no infringement is intended by this show. The show is not a good revenue stream. Actually, there's not a stream at all. All music and sound clips are under copyright by their respected copyright holders. So there should be no need to send the Penguins lawyers after us for ill-gotten gains because there are none. You can get a hold of the show a few different ways. We are on Twitter at ELTD Podcast. You can also email in at robineltdpodcast@yahoo.com. Our Facebook page can be found at www.facebook.com/everyonelovesthedrake. And as always, you can message directly over at the BatmanUniverse.net. So email, tweet, or message us. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll read your comments or responses on the show. The show you're listening to can be found a few different ways through iTunes and Windows Media, also over at our host, TBU. Leave us a review on iTunes if you listen there. It'll help spread the word of the show. Make sure you head over to the BatmanUniverse.net, your home for all things Batman and Robin. Thanks for listening to the show and hearing why everyone loves the Drake. We'll see you in a few weeks. Take care.